What's the biggest lie you hear people repeat about money?
Money doesn't make you happy, because it sure as hell does. Without money, you don't have access. Without money, you don't have the best healthcare. You don't have the best education. You don't have the rights and privileges of what money could buy you. Now, money generally makes you more of what you are. So if you're not a happy person, you won't be happy. However, money opens the doors to financial freedom and lets you sleep at night. So money, to me, is just as important as air and water and food. You got to get money.
People love to say money is the root of all evil, but honestly, I feel like being broke is. Because when you don't have money, you're forced to struggle, you're forced to settle, and you have to say yes to things that drain you just to survive. And to me, that's not peace. But money gives you options. It gives you peace of mind. And it lets you wake up and move exactly how you want to move. It lets you take care of your people, travel when you want, and build a life that actually feels good to live. See, I don't think money changes people at all. It just shows you who they really are.
That's paper. We call it money. Money is an idea. Money goes where it's invited and it stays where it's welcome. The idea that you have to work hard for this stuff is not true. Some of the people who work the hardest are the ones that earn the least.
Nobody satisfies the algorithm of enough. Not the guy in the expensive car pulling into the apartment complex. Not the one buying rounds that he can't afford. Not the one upgrading his watch to close a deal that never comes. They're not stupid. They're not weak. They're running a race that was rigged before they were even born. And the finish line? It moves every single time they get close. The pressure you feel to spend isn't a character flaw, it's a system. One that was designed long before you had a credit card and perfected long before you had a dating profile. Let me show you how it works. From the time boys can walk, they absorb a message so constant it becomes invisible. Your value is what you provide, not who you are. What you provide. The kid who shares his toy is generous. The dad who works overtime is dedicated. The man who picks up the check is a gentleman. Every compliment, every approval, every nod of respect gets filtered through the same lens. What can you give? What can you show? What can you afford? By adulthood, this isn't just messaging. It's operating software. It runs in the background of every financial decision, every purchase. And most men don't even know it's running. They just know something feels off. They make good money but never feel secure. They buy nice things but the satisfaction evaporates before the credit card statement arrives. They hit milestones they thought would bring peace and find the goalpost moved once again. That's not a personal bug. That's the system working exactly how it was designed. A 15-year study tracked the same group of married people over time. What they found should be national news. As men took on more financial responsibilities in their marriages, their psychological well-being declined, their health declined, and it was worse during the years that they were the sole breadwinners. 5% lower psychological well-being, 3.5% lower health scores, just from carrying the weight alone. The provider role isn't a privilege. It's a pressure cooker with no release valve. And the system, it knows this, which is why it built an entire industry around exploiting it. Marketing doesn't sell you products anymore. It sells you identity. That watch isn't telling time. It's telling everyone that you arrived. That car isn't transportation. It's a press release about your network.
There are two huge lies you need to know about your money. One, the car payment, you think you're buying dependability, but you're actually buying a problem. See, when you buy a car payment, it disrupts everything in your finances. And it's the biggest thing that people buy that actually goes down in value. So you have money coming out a couple different ways just in a month. The car's going down in value. You're paying for insurance. You're paying for gas. You're paying this payment over and over. And all the while, the car is getting older. It's going to be less valuable to you. But the idea that when you lease or when you buy a car, you're buying dependability, well, that's just not true. You buy dependability based off that vehicle, but you paying a payment, That has nothing to do with how the car is going to perform. The second thing that's a lie for most people with their money is, just like you think dependability is with the car, you think you can somehow create independence and financial freedom by having a strong credit score. See, there's a definitive difference when you understand that your credit score really is just reflection of how you perform with the loans that you actually have. It's not a good thing or a bad thing. But the one thing I will say is it really impacts your ability when you're to actually make more money, when you're too busy trying to manage the payments and figure out how you can get points. I was one of those people that I focused on my credit score. And it dawned on me, and this is somebody who worked on the bank, that I realized, hey, I don't have more money now that I'm trying to build the score and now that I'm focused on this. But as I started investing and as I started really only looking at what can I borrow and the things that I do borrow, I pay off, I noticed that there was a huge increase over time in my credit score, so much to the point that people, companies, banks beg me to take on credit that I just don't need.
Researchers from the California management found that men use luxury purchases specifically to signal status, value, and exclusivity. Not comfort, not enjoyment. Signaling. The purchase exists to be seen, and the advertisement industry knows exactly when you're most vulnerable. A study in the Psychologist of Men journal tested what happens when men's sense of masculinity gets threatened. The result? They become significantly more responsive to hypermasculinity advertisement. The ads that scream real men drive this hits hardest when you already feel like you're losing. The insecurity creates a customer. The product creates more insecurity. It's a closed loop with the wallet as the exit wound. You're standing in the store, or you're online at 1 a.m. There's something you don't need. You know you don't need it. But there's this voice that says, oh, you work hard. You deserve this. This is how they'll know you're doing okay. And in that moment, the purchase isn't about the thing. It's about quieting that voice. It's about buying 3 hours of feeling like you're enough. So you swipe. And for a moment, it works. Then the statement comes. And the voice, it comes back. And you realize the purchase didn't fix anything. It just delayed the feeling until next month with interest. That's not weakness. That's a psychological trap sprung by people who profit from your self-doubt. The numbers prove how deep this runs. 40% of Americans admit that they overspend specifically to impress someone else. But 41% of men who overspend did it to impress a date. For women, 17%. That's not a gap. That's a canyon. 36% of men say they'd go on a date that they couldn't even afford. 22% of millennials have gone into debt from dating alone. Not from emergencies, not from medical bills, just from trying to prove their worth choosing. And the pressure doesn't let up even when you succeed. Separate research found that when wives earn more than 40% of household income, husbands' stress level, they spike. Not because men are fragile, because a lifetime of conditioning told them that their contribution equals their worth. When that math changes, the identity destabilizes. Job loss hits the same way. Studies show that men experience higher rate of depression and anxiety following unemployment than women in similar situations. For men, it's an existential threat. The job isn't just a job, it's proof of worth. Lose it, and the identity crumbles with it.
The most expensive lie sold to broke people is that money doesn't buy happiness. Okay, if money doesn't buy happiness, then what does being broke buy? Nothing. Being broke leaves you stressed out. Being broke forces fights about the bills. Being broke haunts your every thought. Since childhood, we were told that struggling made us humble. that ambition made us selfish, that wanting more meant you were greedy. So we learned to feel guilty for wanting more. We started to fear that if we got rich, we'd somehow lost our soul. But money isn't evil. Money is a tool that can buy time. It can buy peace for your home. It buys you the freedom to leave any place, any person that doesn't value you. There is nothing noble about being broke. The real nobility is in building a life where you have choices. So don't let anyone shame you for knowing what you're worthy of. Your desire isn't greed. It's you knowing you were meant to be free.
Longitudinal research on self-esteem found that something should change how we change about this. Increases in self-esteem follow increases of income, not the other way around. Your income predicts how you feel about yourself more than your self-worth predicts your income. The money comes first. Then you're allowed to feel okay. That's a psychological trap built into the economy. This is the cycle. Earn more, spend more to prove you've earned it, feel pressure to earn more to cover what you spent, and then you repeat. The treadmill doesn't stop when you run faster. It speeds up. Think about how we talk about men who don't display. We call them cheap, right? Unambition. Settling. A man who drives a 10-year-old car isn't financially intelligent. Oh, he's stuck. A man who doesn't pick up the check, he's not a gentleman. The language itself is rigged. Frugality in women is praised. In men, it's questioned. So, men spend to feel like they're keeping up. They finance the appearance of success while the stress compounds in the background. They trade peace for performance, long-term security for short-term image. They perform wealth instead of building it. Research on conspicuous consumption consistently finds the same patterns. The people most likely to buy visible status symbols aren't the wealthy. They're the ones trying to look wealthy. The actual rich, they're invisible. They don't need you to know. Real wealth doesn't announce itself. It doesn't have to. Meanwhile, the people you're trying to impress, they're too busy trying to impress someone else to notice your watch. That's the joke no one tells you. Everyone is performing for an audience that isn't even watching. So you have men going broke to look successful in a system that taught them that their value lies in their wallet from childhood, saturates them from advertisement designed to weaponize their insecurities, tied their self-esteem to income with psychological change, and then mocks them for falling into debt. The same culture that built this trap causes you irresponsible for getting caught in it in the first place. That's not accountability. That's gaslighting on a civilization scale. The blueprint you were given doesn't work. It was never supposed to. It was designed to keep you chasing, not to help you arrive. Here's what actually compounds. Not watches, not cars, not clothes with logos that cost extra for the privilege of advertising someone else's brand. What compounds is savings you don't touch, skills you keep sharpening, relationships built on who you are instead of what you display, peace you protected instead of performing over. The man who says no to the unnecessary purchase isn't missing out. He's the one who understood the game early enough to stop playing it. Real wealth is invisible. It's the emergency fund nobody knows about. It's the investment account that grows while you sleep. It's the ability to walk away from a bad situation because you're not desperate. It's options. Fake wealth is loud. It's the financed car, the max card, the lifestyle that requires constant feeding. It's a prison that looks like success from the outside. One gives you freedom, the other just performs it. Men with 6 months of expenses saved doesn't post about it. The man who can quit a toxic job tomorrow doesn't brag at dinner. The man who sleeps soundly because he owes nothing doesn't need you to know. Freedom is quiet. It doesn't photograph well. And that's exactly why it's so rare. I think about the men I know who actually have peace. Not the ones who look successful, the ones who are. They share something in common. They stopped playing the game before the game bankrupted them. They drive cars that work. They wear clothes that fit. And when you sit with them, there's no performance, no constant calculation of how they're being perceived. That's not settling. That's arriving. The irony is they have more than the men who display. More savings, more freedom, more time, more peace. They just don't need you to see it. And that's the difference. The man chasing enough is owned by the chase. The man who decides he already has enough, he owns his life. You were handed a definition of success designed to keep you spending, striving, and never arriving. Written by industries that profit from your insecurities. Reinforced by a culture that confuses consumption with achievement. Opting out isn't failure. It's the first intelligent move. The algorithm of enough will never be satisfied. That's the point. Satisfaction ends the transaction. But you can be satisfied. You can decide that what you have is enough. That who you are is enough. That the finish line isn't wherever the culture puts it. It's wherever you plant it. That's a choice the system hopes you never make. Because the moment you do, you stop being a customer and you start being free. Freedom doesn't come from adding more. It comes from finally understanding you were enough before the first purchase. And the only person who needs to believe that is you. It's been your girl, Rene here. I'll see you guys in my next video.